Hello, everyone. We are just waiting for others to join. Just give us 10 seconds or 15. Yeah, there are people still joining, so we are recording, so no worries. We are doing the stuff for you. So once it will be green lighted by CD Projekt, it will be published. So okay, I think we have still people joining, but we can start. Oh, still a lot of them. So let's wait a few seconds so I don't repeat myself. Hello, Valentina Fumagalli. Thank you for sharing your video. It's really nice to see faces sometimes on the webinar, not only black squares. We really appreciate. Oh, hello. Another bold guy, Baghdad. Thank you.
Hello, pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's always nicer to talk to faces. Oh, still a lot of people joining. So let us wait a moment. Oh, a lot of videos. Thank you guys for joining with your faces. Okay, I think we can start. Let me share my screen with some materials. Share sound. Guys, let me show you some short film that is presenting Futuregames Warsaw. My name is Piotr Matecki. I'm a head of Futuregames Warsaw Game Dev School, which we run in strategic partnership with CD PROJEKT RED and in company's premises in Warsaw, on Jagiellońska Street. And we are happy to host you here today with our guests from CDPR. Our host will be Joel Folblom, and our head of education in game art. And I will just make a quick introduction from our side, showing you what school is all about. And basically, this webinar is a part of our marketing campaign, trying to recruit as many of you and attract you to our school and convince you that this is the best way to join the industry. So just 5 minutes from the sponsor, and then you will get to the nitty-gritty and what Joel prepared for you and what guys from CDPR have for you today. So let's go. Oh, no sound. Yeah, it's always technicalities. Here's the sound.
Now you have sound but no video, Piotr. So
No video.
No, it's frozen sadly. So I think you have to share your screen with the sound settings.
Okay, sorry about this.
It always happens on webinars. No worries.
Yeah, it's always share sound. Do you see it now?
Yes, we can see the screen. Just the video was stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And audio. Cool.
Okay, let's get to the slides. No more videos. Guys, I always challenge myself with this video. It's pretty upbeat, and it's the essence of our school and what we achieved for 20 years in Sweden. So basically, we have 20 years of history already in Sweden. 5 sites: Boden, where Joel is placed, Skellefteå, Karlstad, Stockholm, and lately Malmö. We are in the process of establishing in Norway, in Odresa, and cooperation with Dundee, New Zealand, with Polytechnic there. And Futuregames Warsaw is the newest, is the offspring on the map of Futuregames schools. We opened last September with 45 students and in strategic partnership with CD PROJEKT RED. Here you can see some of these early adopters. Some people were still in visa processes. We have students from Mexico, Indonesia, Ukraine, Greece, Italy, you name it. So it's really international hub. All educations are in English. And I just wanted to go quickly over what's happening in the school, just to give you the overview, and then I will leave the stage to you all and our guests. So basically, we start the course, whether it's game art, game design, or game programming, with creating our own board and card games and team building. So this is like the first 2-3 weeks. It's very intensive. It's a team building process and also brainstorming, and people get know each other very quickly. First creations pop up, and it's really satisfying process, a lot of fun there. And right in the second month, we jump on lectures. We invite a lot of people from the industry. It's like visits from CDPR experts are on, let's say, weekly or bi-weekly basis in our school. What we do in the education is very hands-on, so we also take our students to industry events. We were in game industry conference in Poznań, one of the biggest game dev related events, going there prepared with the structure, with the sole goal to network and gain knowledge firsthand from the best industry experts. A lot of lectures, we shared them among students. They went there prepared. They went there to listen, to make notice, and share knowledge they gained with other students. So we were seen, and this is also made on purpose, because we do our marketing, school marketing, by promoting our students. This is mutual agreement, and this is by building their personal brands and visibility in the industry and their network. We build our school marketing, and this is a really symbiotic relation. And this is what we are doing on our social media. We are promoting their successes, their success stories, their projects. And if you go to our Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook profile, you may notice it. We have visits from lecturers on, as I say, weekly basis. We build connections with organizations and other partners and companies. This is all in order to benefit our students, to help them get to the industry. The whole goal of this course is to land you a job on the market. Students create games during the course. During 2.5-year course, they create 4 games, fully playable in teams, where we team up artists, designers, programmers, QAs. From now, we will be also adding game producers. These games are set fully playable. They are fun. They are sometimes really successful, also on commercial basis on the market. As the last part of the game creation process, students pitch these games to the jury. Sometimes there are venture capital representatives in the jury, and some games go farther in the process. We also have our own advisory board. Right now, Joel will probably know how many of them are in Sweden, but we open up one in Poland, also with patronage from CDPR. The whole idea behind the advisory board is to host representatives of the game dev industry, game dev studios, and ask them if our education is in line with their needs, so that we are sure that you land the job which you want after finishing the course. This webinar today is a part of is another one in a series of our joint webinars with CD PROJEKT RED. I hope it will be another highlight and another best one. For sure, it's the most, the highest number of registered users, participants this time. Few words about our strategic partnership with CD PROJEKT RED. What does it mean for our students? So first of all, we were able to lower our tuition from 23k euro, which is the cost of this course in Sweden, to 12,900 euros. So it's almost half, cut in half. CD PROJEKT RED also offers 6 scholarships to the best performing students from our active students. The studio will cover 1 year of education in our school. Experts from CDPR, it's what's happening today. You have Michał and Anton with us, so it's like mutual merit cooperation with the studio. And of course, some of our students stand the chance to have their internship done in CD PROJEKT RED. Courses which we offer is game artist, game designer, and game programmer. These are 2.5 years. You study on-site in Warsaw, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. This is the time you have to reserve for this. But in practicality, it's very hybrid course. You can do some, you can also combine it with work. You can rewatch some lectures. You can participate also partly remote. We add to the mix, and this is the direct aftermath of the meeting of advisory board where CDPR backed up our idea. We will open game producer course. This will be 1.5 years long, very practical course for more advanced participants who already have some background in game dev or project management in general. I will not elaborate for so long about how the education runs. Joel has some more nitty-gritty information about this, but basically this is like a loop. You create game project, you reflect on the process, what you have done, you gain new skills, then you study for another 6 weeks or 8 weeks theory, which is instantly applied. You get assignments, they are being assessed by our teachers. You have lectures from external experts, and you visit game dev events, etc. Then you are thrown on the second game project, and this cycle repeats, and you end up doing your 30 weeks internship in the game dev studio, which we organize with you, for you, by partnering with game dev studios in Poland. Right now we have in the loop like 40 game dev studios, among them People Can Fly, Flying Wild Hog, 11-bit studios, so a lot of companies which initially are open to take our interns. I will skip success stories. There is a lot of them. I will send you guys during this webinar link to this presentation. Maybe just worth highlighting that we have educated 14% of active game dev employees in Sweden. They went through Futuregames in Sweden, and our alumni, actually it's 96% employability factor. So basically 96% of our graduates land a job after the course, and this is our goal for Poland as well. A lot of success stories. Hazelight is basically built on Futuregames alumni. The same story with Starbreeze. Joel will elaborate on this also a bit more. Okay, I think I'm done here. I just quick information that if you are international, you are somewhere there, whether it's Turkey, whether it's Mexico, don't hesitate to approach us and ask us questions. Our students got their visas, they moved to Poland, they fixed their accommodation, and they are really happy being here. So mostly the spirits are really high. So I think it's worth considering joining us here in Warsaw, as you would be embarking on the adventure of your life. I can honestly say this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send it to me on this email. If you want to apply, just send us your portfolio, CV, and cover letter. That's pretty simple, and you just need to speak English besides that, and that's it. Let me now stop sharing, and Joel, I will be passing mic to you, and
thank you.
For the best part of the webinar. So thank you.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it's the CDPR guys we have with us, but let's get to that when we get to that. So yes, I'm just gonna share my screen here and set up my windows. And gonna pop out the chat so I can see. So yes, first of all, welcome everyone. This is a webinar that's been about a month in the making. Piotr reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to talk about something specific, and we had this opportunity to get some really cool guests from CD PROJEKT RED. And for me, as an artist, I thought that we tend to get lost in character art because it's very presentable. Characters are cool. There's the tell story. But I wanted to present the other thing, what most people in the game industry is doing probably, which is a lot of assets. It's props, it's the environment, it's creating stones and trees and everything. And then we will move on to our guests after when I will start with going through the pipeline, the different things, and then move on to a guest for a Q&A and so on and so forth. So moving on to my next slide here. Also, I'm always cursed when I have a presentation, so I probably will crash somewhere in this, but hopefully not. And then if I do, I will be back in a second. Anyhow, as Piotr mentioned before, and as we touched on, what's important now? Who are we as Futuregames? Futuregames is a vocational school. It started in Sweden. We are in general, government-founded school in Sweden. We accept international students. But this is part of our expanse. We want to take our Swedish model that we know works. They work for 20 plus years and move it around the world. We think we are doing a reasonable service to the industry. I think the industry thinks the same thing. We have built so many relationships. We've been here for over 20 years. We used to be known as The Garden for a while, then it became Futuregames and so on and so forth. But the essence of what we are have been here for all this time. We have direct relationship with more than 300 game studios in Sweden alone, and internationally even more. We always hire industry professionals as teachers that come back and teach at us, or 400 mentors every year is pretty much what we go through. We have over 100 plus industry internships lasting 30 weeks going on at all times. We publish about 40 games on our itch.io. We have a Steam account and so on. These are vertical slices of full games, and we have about 1,200 students on 6 sites currently, which is a staggering number. We're also academic partners of Epic Games, one of 2 in Sweden, which is why we try to talk about that a bit. We are also a Rookies certified school. And what Rookies is a competition for education, a platform to students to compete against each other on their skill level. Like a year 1 student competes against another year 1 students. We have been really, really lucky because this is all about our students' work. You cannot buy a position at the Rookies. You cannot market your way there. It's all about students that upload their work. And since the Rookies started 7 years ago, we have been top 15 ranking in the world every single year. The best position was 2nd in the world, which is amazing. That's built on like the back of my colleagues. But yeah, who am I? Why am I the one leading this seminar? Well, my name, Joel Fellbom. If you're Swedish, you can pronounce it like that. Otherwise, just make some noise and I probably respond. I started out as an environment artist. Then I joined a mobile game company where I got to do UX and game design as well. And I got stuck on that for a year or 2. and then I moved back to being an artist again, because that was my calling probably. And then I became a teacher. I started my own company. I was like, I'm gonna go out in the industry, make my own games. I'm gonna hire myself out to different companies making 3D. And then they hired me as a guest teacher at Futuregames. And I fell in love with seeing the student success. And that was just it for me. I was like, can I put my game dev hat to the side, put on a teacher hat, and I decided to work at Futuregames. I'm also a wannabe indie developer. I'm gonna release a game at 27/7 or something. I'm very slow. My colleagues are even slower than me. Working with some Ubisoft veterans and some other people. Since I joined about 3 years ago, I probably educated, overseen, and helped hundreds of students to land internships and jobs in the games industry, which is the best thing I ever done. It's such an amazing feeling, to be honest. And I am not the dog in the photo. That's people tend to get confused.
Where do you work?
I'll get to that later. We can save the question and answers to the end of the education, and we're going to talk about that at the end of the presentation.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. But yeah, and I live in the northern part of Sweden, the land of reindeers and northern lights, pretty much. I can mention that I worked on I worked on products for like companies such as Fat Shark, Arrowhead, and so on and so forth. They were perhaps not AAA companies back then, but let's pretend. Paradox as well, and I worked outside of games, making like VR visualization for ABB robotics and so much else. I think I have about 30 or so release projects over my career, and also a lot of mobile games. I am a generalist in probably
What
more than
mobile
another
games?
artist. Sorry?
What mobile games?
I'll get to that later. So yeah, just for the etiquette, because with so many people in this, let's save all the questions to the end of the presentations.
Yeah.
Anyhow, what will we cover today? We will cover what is environment art and prop art on a very high level, some pipeline stuff, what are some professional things to keep in mind, the difference between a professional artist and a hobbyist, how we teach, the software we teach, and then we're going to talk about like an artist journey. Everyone starts in different ways. My start is probably very different than our guests. I was a typical Swedish game artist that started in a vocational school, went on to an internship, and went on to the industry. But that's not the case for everyone, especially not every country. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A with our guests, and so on and so forth. What will we not cover might be as important. Of course, and we really ask you to not ask any questions about unannounced or NDA protected games or industry secrets. We cannot share those, and it's just that's just how it is. This seminar is not about character art. I'm going to show you some pictures really soon, but you can become a character artist that does Futuregames, but it's not what we will focus on. We will not talk too much about AI and so on. It's a tool for an artist to learn. If all the tools in the game industry that I have used through my career is about making us produce content faster. AI in games have existed for so many years. And it will, procedural things, photo scanning, it's all about making games faster to create so we can have larger games. Industry trends. There are up and downs in the game industry. Currently, we are a little bit on a slope. Our board of education in Sweden, and that is Swedish companies, it's DICE, it's Starbreeze, it's what have you, think things are going to get back to normal in 2025-ish. If you join us, you will graduate 2027. The landscape will be very different then. So these things I would not ask you to ask questions about, because
Okay, thanks.
yeah. And so just leaving this here. Yeah, we do train character artists as well. But that's simply what this seminar is not about. So let's move on. What is environment, and prop art. To be honest, the difference is quite blurry, if there is a difference nowadays. A proper asset artist tend to make every small little asset that you see, be it a barrel, a box, be it larger things as vehicles or what have you. Environment artists at some studios do exactly the same things as well, but may actually help with populating the scenes, putting these boxes into the world, create the terrain, the mountains, the grass, the sky, the lightning, and so on and so forth. There is like quite a large different how different studios work. And I will say this a lot, because there's not one answer fits everyone. It is literally up to different studios to create their own work routines and so on. I will talk about from the perspective of the studios I worked on, but the guest will probably answer then how they worked and so on and so. When it comes to being an environment artist, as you all know, every player needs a world to save or burn in Johnny Silverhand's case. And that's, I think it's where most of artists spend the time creating large-scale games. There's so much content that needs to be created. And this needs to be put into a game engine, let's say Unreal or Unity or Red engine or an in-house engine. Everything needs to be modeled. There needs detailing with scouting, texture, materials, and lighting, and so on and so forth, which I also will say a lot. If you think about a game, there's probably thousands of trees, rocks, and someone needs to make all of these minor things that will become the whole. We have a favorite story at Futuregames because one of our teachers have a friend that always wanted to work at Rockstar, and he loved making rocks. And he sculpted so many rocks and became like one of the best rock sculpting artists out there and joined Rockstar. So he's a Rockstar artist in different ways. So that can be a job as well, making rocks apparently. During this presentation, I'm going to show a lot of pictures and videos. The majority is from students that attended Futuregames. For example, this from Hannes. We also have some environment art from the Unreal Engine course that just ended actually last week before the character moved on to the character art course. So when you see a scene like this, you have to think about everything that goes into this. It's the water, it's the rocks, it's the sky, it's the, to be honest, everything you see is a human that have produced or told a machine to produce in some way. And this is why games take so long to make, like everything from 3 to 7 years and cost almost $1 billion some games cost nowadays. It's insane numbers. Some games have over like between 500 to 5,000 people working on them. So it's a giant process. How you usually start while working on these things, it's like a block out that then leads to individual assets that has to be detailed, has to be materials created, fabrics need to be simulated. This is from our second year study, Gazal, and then it's put into a scene. And there's things, artistic values that you don't think about usually when creating scenes. For me, when I saw this art piece, I thought it was lacking of colors. Why is it so like grayish? And then Gazal explained her vision, which is pretty much that this is a depressed writer's room. She wants to show the room from the vision of the writer, which makes like her final image a bit different because we are artists. Now we present our work is different. And she thought like doing this would add to the character of the final piece. We have Alva here, second year student. I think she created this for her first year. She wanted to convey this ancient style of ruins and this like civilization left behind. Also an environment piece, but it's props. It's the background, it's the sky, it's the lighting. So it's the prop artist and environment artist working hand in hand, which takes me to the next step, which is the pipeline. What is a pipeline? Well, it's pretty much the individual steps every asset or every production goes through. There's a game pipeline, which is the overall, and then there's the artist pipeline that covers just what the artist would do, like the prop. As everything else, it's studio specific. Some studios have really complex pipelines with automatically setups, but we tend to focus on the fundamentals because you can automatize a lot, but if you don't know the fundamentals, color, light, shapes, it's very hard to become a good artist, to be honest. You cannot automation-wise your way through a bad model. You need to know these things, and that's totally a made-up word, but hope you get what I know, what I mean. So everything starts with an idea. When you're creating a game, it becomes a pitch. You manage to find some people that sponsor your project. It becomes a story, concepts, and prototypes. And that's the base of your game. And then you hire your art team and your programmers and your project manager and your designers and so forth to create this game. And hopefully, after they sit down, you start to getting like assets list and things like this need to be created, this needs to be added to the game. And that's where asset artists or environment artists and prop artists look at the concept images. And concept images are usually quite different from the ones you see in marketing. It's not this super high quality 2D images. It's like I've seen concepts that just sketched on post-it notes. Every day you get a post-it note with like, this is how this animation should work, or this is how this should look. It usually looks like this. It have text written on it, like what materials are this? What will it do? How does it animate? And how does it move? And then you gather references, because most of the things you created have been done or are made of something that's real. So you need to gather like hundreds of reference images sometimes that shows like, this is how the like wheel of a tank look. This is the tower. This is the individual screws. It can get really insane how much references you look at. Then you plan your work depending on this. And you need to know like the technical limitations. Back in the days, we tend to be super strict when it comes to polygons limits and so on. Nowadays, it's more like the texture size and the memory, especially for console, where you have a specific amount. You cannot upgrade your way during a console generation. So things like that, really important. How many textures are there per object? How many shaders? We talk about draw calls. If you want to Google something, we will not get into specifics. But the general hero prop pipeline, and the hero prop is an asset that is a little bit more important. Maybe it's for the story, you hold it close to your face, you interact with it, it has animations and things like that. Then you tend to gather, once again, gather references based on the concept. You do a block out, which is just to set the shape and silhouette of an object, really basic modeling. Then you usually do some high poly detailing. It can be in ZBrush or a sculpting program, or it can be some like sub-D modeling or some high, like really high bevel modeling or something like that. Then comes everyone's favorite step, which is retopologizing and UV mapping, which is where you make it game dev friendly. Like you lower the resolution, the polygons, and so it can run. And then UV mapping is when you take your three-dimensional shape, wrap it out onto a 2D image you can paint on top of it or create your textures. These tend to be the most hated steps by artists, but I think it's because many don't want to learn the steps. If you just get through the pain, you sit down and be like, I'm gonna learn this, how this really works from the ground up, then that might actually become a fun thing where you rest your brain from being creative all the time and just make something fun. Like it's a puzzle pretty much. Then you take this into a texturing program or you apply textures you created, like tiling texture that repeat itself, so on. And then you usually have a final artwork, something in the line of this. And there's also 3D scanning and photogrammetry that might be used. We will look a little bit in that later on in this presentation. And of course, other divisions might join in. It's not only by environment artists and prop artists that do things like this. If it needs to be moved or animated, you need the rigging and animation that creates the like skeleton of the thing. It makes more sense if you're making a human, but then maybe the tech art team. Tech art team is like this hybrid between programmers and artists. They are probably the unsung heroes of this industry for many of us, together with QA. Let's say I want to make a candle, but no matter how hard I try to texture a candle wax, it doesn't really look right. So I run to a technical artist to make them, or force them to make me a candle wax shader that like have subsurface scattering and these super cool effects that makes it look real. Things like that is what tech artists can do for us. When it comes to photogrammetry, a lot of games today have these really amazing assets, and it started around 2015 maybe, that we started to get really cool softwares where we run out and take 1,000 pictures of the same rock or similar. There's also 3D scanning. We've had these sensors that shoot 3D rays at objects. It sounds like something from Marvel, but it's kind of how we do. Many studios nowadays have really advanced photo labs with hundreds of cameras to take images of objects from every angle. Pretty much like this, from every different angle you have a picture. You bring it into a software that will create 3D models of this. This example is from DICE, who's in our Board of Education. They work on Star Wars Battlefront. You can look at this talk if you Google Star Wars Battlefront and the art of photogrammetry. When you get 3D made things like this, they are usually not ready to throw right into an engine. You need to manually create, retopologize this, create game-friendly resolution, the materials and so on, textures, UV mapping, usually needs to be created as well. So this is, as we said before, every tool that have been invented since I started in the game industry is about to make games faster to create. And this is how the industry will keep developing. But what I also have noticed is when we got new, better tools, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are fewer people working on games. It just means that we make larger games. Like, think about Cyberpunk, especially the expansion. Like, that world is insane. The amount of content and assets, I have no clue how they managed to make that, but I'm sure our guests might touch on that later. But keep that in mind for every step. So why do we use technologies like this? As I mentioned, it saves a lot of time. That's the coolest thing, like days per assets. If you look at how DICE, when they worked on Battlefield 4, like the high poly was 5 days, the retopoly was 2 days, UV layout 2 more days, texturing 2 days, setup 1 day. So they went pretty much from 2 weeks to 4 days in their pipeline per asset. And if you think of a modern game, you can have so many assets, like 5 to 10 to 100 or 1,000 assets in the end. So compared to that, just imagine how much time you can create and put into making even cooler games. So here is a quick look at how an asset pipeline would look. This is super quick, it's no specifics, but you start in Maya, you create your model, your block out, you detail it in ZBrush, you retopologize it, you UV map it, and you texture it and make your materials. And this video I borrowed from Simon Funk, which brings me into a thing I want you to think about. When you're a student and when you're starting to think about joining the industry or joining a school, there's a lot of way to study before you join an education. Some people are even 100% self-taught. You can do it. It's just hard with the connections and having like the motivation, everything like that. And when you watch YouTube or tutorials, or if you buy tutorials, make sure that you get good stuff from people that actually know what they are talking about. From this tutorial, is from Simon Funk's. If you Google military radio tutorial, you will find it. And all of us his other tutorials. He worked at Blizzard, he worked at Valve, I think he currently works at Valve, and he makes tutorials. They are usually pay for tutorials, but they are usually worth it because they are really, really good, up-to-date AAA industry things that you can prepare yourself and learn. You can, of course, start with a Blender donut, but don't end there. There's so much more to learn. And like looking into Chamfer Zone or JRON or any of these like people that actually work in game dev, if you start looking at their tutorials, you will get a lot more prepared before joining an education. With that said, let's move on to the pipeline of modern game art environments. So when you're working on an environment, you are a step in a chain. Usually there's a game idea, it has story, it has narrative, it has mechanics, like in this level, someone's gonna be able to jump, shoot, climb. Level designers will create a block out based on the game designer's mechanics and ideas to try out the gameplay in early stages of a game. So most games just look like white boxes in the early stages, where the people actually can play almost the entire game without any beautiful art to look at. It's just pretty much gray and white boxes and maybe some colors if you're lucky. So that's where the environment is coming. Someone needs to take this and make a game world that's both beautiful, but they also need to be functional. We cannot go crazy as environment artists. We cannot put trees where the game designers want us to move, or I don't know. We cannot put houses in where in the way of I don't know, where you're chasing a enemy. That's a bad examples, but your environment art need to be help the game designers with the world they are creating. It needs to be part of the whole. It's not only about making beautiful things. So an environment artist take the block outs together with the prop artists, assets artists, and so on. Terrain artist, vegetation artist, rock artist, tree art. So create these assets, and they use this to populate the world. They need to place every stone, every rock, every scanned object as a stone, rocks, or even large mountains need to be added to the scene. It's large game worlds are built in iterations, being slowly improved over months to even years. You don't build, usually in the studios I worked, you don't start with the final look of a game. You might create a basic version and then create a little more advanced and then the final version and so on and so forth, just to make sure that everything is correct before you put in the absolutely final touches. Because it's very difficult to go back and change if you made something permanent before you tested it out with game test. And the QA probably want to test the game, and you want to invite real people in to try out your game to see if it's fun. So it takes a long time before a video game starts looking like a video game. Years, to be honest, in some cases. Some games you're looking, just staring at and playing a gray world for years before it starts to come together. And depending on studio, some environment artists are also responsible for like creating the light of the scene, baking the shadows and so on. Some other studios have lighting artists that do that for you. But in the end, if everyone works together, hand in hand, prop artist, environment artist, and so on and so forth, we get a beautiful scene. Our students tend to do all the work. We want them to be generalists and go through every step. So they need to model light, create the entire scene, work with terrain, work with vegetation, sculpt everything. Also, when we work in really large games, things would take an impossible long time to create open worlds, for example. In that case, we tend to use procedural tools to automatically populate the worlds or create mountains and rocks depending on parameters that are pretty much nodes or sliders, like this mountain, how much is it affected by wind or rain? So just drag a slider and the mountain changes the look. I have a short video of how this might look. I stole this from Houdini, from their PDG pipeline from the 2019 talk. So here they're using like all its nodes instead of like drag and dropping different menus and options to create a large scale world. And this might be how your work look as well. Might not be as creative as you might think, but in the end result is the artistic vision. That's where the artsy side of you comes to mind. Just a short video. I don't think you get too much of that if you haven't worked with it. Houdini is even an advanced program for people that have been in game art for a long time. Some call it black magic. I do that. But it's part of an option, something you can learn. The next video is a bit more artistic. Once again, it's just a quick speed thingy. It's not any great detail. This is from our Unreal Epic Games, and they are partnership with Futuregames. Here they're showing off their photo scanned assets and the Unreal Engine. So this scene is mostly created by assets that have been 3D scanned from the Quixel Megascan library. This can be a visual, visual guide how environment artist works. Maybe in a little bit more fun way. But as always, every rock needs to be placed, every mountain, every tree, every road needs to be paved. This is some fencing subjects. So things like that. It creates the entire world. Takes time, it's fun, and in the end, that's pretty much what we do. So moving on, you saw some space rooms on previous slides. And I want to do a little bit of like a student showcase every now and then. In this case is Hannes Lissner, who is one of my students up in the north of Sweden. Super talented, hard worker, everything you want a student to be pretty much. He started with a concept, created the block out, which are the basic functions. In this case, he wanted to like really make sure that everything like size-wise, shapes, silhouette was correct. Then he moved on to creating every single assets. He wanted to tell a story with his scene, which means like these drawings that the person living in this space station would have, and like this traffic and toys and everything like that. Then adding all the like lights to the scene, the like particles, the effects, like down to the dust. That's the kind of like person he is. Then of course, every part of the scene needs to be created. And it's the low poly, it's the detailing, it's the texturing, all part of it. Like in like small post-it notes, just tells a story. Creating every prop, he wanted this to be his like flagship portfolio piece. So everything is created on like a hero prop standard almost. And then in the end, the finished scene. And when you have a student this skilled, it's so easy to work as a teacher. Just amazing work from him. And the thing with him as well is that he is not only like one specification. Of course, if you want to work with only sci-fi, do that. That's your dream. But he makes medieval stuff as well. And the first one was from the advanced game art course, which is 4 weeks, I think, which this one is 4 weeks. Pretty amazing, to be honest. Well, this was his graduation project, which is about 10 weeks. But yeah, moving on. So if you look at ArtStation and anything like that, these are these amazing artworks. You cannot believe people can be that talented. And it can be quite like daunting to enter an industry thinking that you need to be at that level. But usually the things that hit the front page of ArtStation are the best of the best. That's not the truth of the level everyone are at. It also is, the job is not to make the best art you can do. The job is making art on time. It's making art in teams. It's keeping track of other people's work. It's planning, it's structure, it's being a good co-worker. These are the soft skills that we also love to teach. And we teach that mainly through our game projects, where we work in teams as large as like 20 plus students per team during between 3 weeks for the shortest game projects to I think 7 weeks for the longest game projects, which is a very short time to make a game. So we make like vertical slices just part of a game pretty much, or that at least that is what we tell the students, but the students tend to try to make World of Warcraft in 7 weeks instead. But that's a common thing. We live and we learn. But what I think you should keep in mind when entering this industry is you're creating content for the player, not yourself. How I tend to look at this is that it's the difference between being like think like a painter like Picasso or Jason Pollock, someone who create art for the sake of art, and someone who paints houses. That might sound a little bit like harsh, but it kind of is. Your goal is to make your client, the players, or your art director at least happy, and to make art that is functioning in the game. When it comes to time management, you need to deliver on time. Every week you will have a deadline for the rest of your career pretty much. And that's not for everyone. Just keep that in mind when you choose this as a career. You need to work from an asset list, you need to do time tracking, you need to make estimation. In the end, this is the cost of the game. This is how much a game costs to make. Majority of the cost is not software, it's personnel. And some games marketing, to be honest, costs more than both. You need to live in a world where someone will critique your work every day. You will show off your work to people that will want you to change stuff. Some of your art, especially when you start at a studio, when you're a junior or an intern even, you will get you make an art piece that you're super happy with, and then it got sent back to you. Like up to 10 times I have things sent back to me to fix small things. It's sometimes there's just a producer that comes in and have changed his mind about the game, and you have to like scratch an entire level and start over from the beginning. That is frustrating, to put it mildly, but it's an important aspect of making games and something you have to get used to. You also need to be a team player. The absolute best artists I've worked on are also the people that include people in teams. They think about how they can help each other. They push each other upwards instead of down. You will work with other disciplines. You kind of have to understand some limitation for like, what can the designers do? What can't they do? What can the programmers do? What can't they do? How long does it take to make your super cool mega shader? Will having this super cool material, will it tank the performance of the entire game? Maybe I want 600 see-through materials in a row. That would just crash and burn the entire project because it would run in 1 frame per second. So you need to think about these things. And that's why you need to be a team player. And organization skills. This kind of tracks on like the time management, but you need to understand where something starts and where it ends and how you get there. So you need to understand the block-out phase, the modeling phase, the texturing phase, and everything, and you need to plan it out accordingly. If you know you have 2 weeks on an asset, understand how long every step will take is super important. Another super important thing is to be self-motivated. And this goes both for us as a school when you study and for the industry. You have a daily stand-up maybe where you tell someone what you're doing today, what you did yesterday, and if there's anything like blockers that's stopping you from progressing. But there isn't really any like step-by-step hand-holding that someone will tell you what to do every day. You need to find the work yourself. Also, I think this is very true for all the best artists I work with, is that they have a lot of empathy. And what does that word mean? It's a large word. But to be honest, it means probably that you are curious about others, other disciplines. It means that you think of the players, how they're going to enjoy your game. When you create a world with like, do the player understand that this part of the world is blocked, that they can't progress through this? Understanding the player will create like a less of a cognitive fatigue when they play your games. And the easiest way is just think of how other people will play your games. Think of how other people will see your art and so on and so forth. And of course, having empathy makes you a better team player. And working in games is very, very social, which is interesting because we are all nerds that just want to sit in our room, not talk to people. But it's a very social industry for most of us. And for those who are not, there is freelancing, but the studio life tend to be very, very social. When I worked at Paradox for a very short time, we every Friday we had like game testing during our like workday, like the second half of the workday on Friday, where might have been beer or other alcohol rich drinks, or it might not have been. Maybe it was strong soda, I don't remember. And game testing, playing our own games and just hanging out. And yeah, here's some animation on the video as well, apparently, on the environment. And this is from the second year Salme Stelsing, her graduation project. So yeah, this is Jira. It's a project management software. It's the nightmare of many people, including me. In a large-scale game where you have to track 100,000 assets and the delivery on time and everything like that, you need to get used that the reality is you will spend more time that you think in something like this. Just keep that in mind. It's not all about making art. You need to make art in an organized fashion. I'm going to move on here. How we teach. Piotr touched a lot on this in the start of this, but we are by the industry for the industry. Our course plans and assignments have created guidance by our Board of Education, such advisory board. And the cool thing is our Board of Education is different depending on which site you are on, but they also have like a holistic perspective as well, which is pretty cool, to be honest. So when it comes to this, it's in Sweden. We have Epic Games, we have DICE, we have Starbreeze, Fatshark, Paradox, Mojang, all of these and more. We have the game projects where companies tend to join as like midway juries. They join as mentors during it, and we have like a final day where they look at the final games and give their feedback from like professional standpoint. We talk a lot about individual responsibility. Our school is, we tend to say it's full-time, but of course, having a side job and so on usually works for the most motivated students, but the teacher-led hours are 10 to 16 hours per week. And then the rest of the time is up to you to work on your assignment, making the assignments the absolutely best you can make them. You can pass a course without having the absolutely best assignment ever, but the students that spend the extra time and uses all the time to create the best, those are the ones that succeed in the end. So it's a lot of individual responsibility. You need to be self-motivated. We have industry teachers from all over the world, joining us online or on site from all over the world. To be honest, since COVID, it's been a little bit harder to get people to join on site, but sometimes it happens. And then at the end, depending on what course you're studying, it's between 6 to 8 months of internship at a game studio. We encourage the students to go out and find their own internships, because students know better where they want to work or what they want to work with. It's kind of like applying for a job. But in the end, we tend to always have a backup solution for students that don't want to or can't, for some reason, find their own internship. And that's also a course, like any other course at Futuregames. Every student have to go through an internship to get the final diploma. And that's how you enter the industry with us. And that's usually why we have such a high success rate at for our students. An example of an assignment could be something like this, created by Ahmad Priyabodaman, my colleague here in the north. He used to work at Ubisoft before joining us on site here in the north as a game art teacher. So it can be very similar to what a work sample would be when trying to apply for a job. Some guest teachers recently that helped Hannes achieving the look in both the space station project and the medieval room was Joseph Hobbs, that is a lead artist at places as Ubisoft Anarchy and Massive. Worked on like Star Wars Outlaws that are upcoming and many other projects. During our internships, like Haze Light, takes a lot of our students. It's created by a lot of our students that have exited our education. Same with Starbreeze and many, many other studios as well. We are almost done and we get to our speakers. This is the last slide for me. When it comes to software, there's always this debate. Maya versus Blender versus 3D Max versus Modo. I don't know. Some people still use Softimage. That's this defunct 3D software that no one have used for many years, but still popular in Japanese studios for some reason. When it comes to software, they are a tool. They don't love you. You don't have to love them. You absolutely don't need to be a fanboy or fangirl or fan person of any software. Use the tool that is best for the job. I use both Maya and Blender myself. I think both have different uses. Of course, Maya costs a lot of money. If you're not a student, you get it for free. In the end, what will determine what software you will use is not your own will, usually. It is what the studio is using. Some studios let you use any software, because modeling software that is, because it's not part of the pipeline. But in Sweden, a lot of studios are using Maya. So 99% of our 3D modeling lectures will be in Autodesk Maya for that reason, because that's what most of our students will use when they join the Swedish game studios. When it comes to modeling, that is, we will of course use other softwares. And worth knowing why this reason is. People are like, but Blender is free, it's super powerful. Why are studios not using it? One, some games like DICE have 20 years of custom-made scripts and tools that only work in Maya. To retrain and recreate these tools would be a lot more expensive than retraining every artist. That can be something you never see when you just look at tutorials or things like that online. Is how you work at a game studio is very, very different from your personal projects. On the other side, this Swedish studio Embark, that ironically was created by DICE veterans, they use Houdini and Blender in some kind of mad mashup with scripts that automatically create a high poly, low poly, UV mapping and export of every object in a work. There's a GDC talk about this, that I have never seen someone work on 3D in the kind of way they do. But they are a little bit different because they have this open software mindset that is very different than many studios do. When it comes to texturing, we use Substance Painter and Photoshop. Industry standard. We also use Substance Designer for tiling textures, materials. ZBrush is our sculpting tool or high poly tool of choice. Photoshop for image editing, also concept painting and so on. Houdini for procedural stuff like creating, automatically filling worlds, creating, I don't know, mountains. We use Perforce, which is a version control. A version control software makes sure you don't lose any content. It back up your file and make sure that you can add things to the game without overwriting your friend's work and so on. It's a very, very big hassle to use, and that's why we introduce it really early for our students. So they actually get to learn the software in game projects. So they don't, I don't know, accidentally delete everything when they join the industry, as some people might have done at some company, not naming any names. And of course, Jira, our project management and asset tracking software of choice, and much, much more. We use Miro, we use Figma, we use 10,000 other softwares. Unreal, Unity, of course, for the game engines. We teach people both of the two large open free game engines. And that pretty much is what we teach. So before I will give the microphone to our guests, let's look at some art of our guest speakers. Of course, Miguel and Anton, both really, really experienced people, environment lead, expert asset artist. To start off this, from The Witcher Wild Hunt, one of my absolutely favorite games, without a doubt. Like, imagine getting to work on this, like the Blood and Wine expansion. I remember just coming here for the first time in the game and like learning about the vampire men and, sorry, spoilers. It's just such a fantastically beautiful game world. And of course, we're joined by CD PROJEKT RED. Let's look at Cyberpunk as well. If you know what this asset is used for, you know the scene and you know the emotional terror that comes with it. It's just one of my absolutely favorite moments in games. Of course, it's a large asset made of individual pieces. Whole lot of polygons. it's super cool seeing like the work of professionals from this level and the inside of the worlds we love to explore and play. So yes, before we open up the mics or chat, preferably to you people joining us, I'm going to ask our friendly guests some questions, 8 in total. So let's start with, I would love to hear about your journey. Where did you start? How did you become professional artist?
Anton can jump in.
Yeah,
All right.
go right ahead.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a complicated question. It might take ages to answer, but I will start shortly. I was studying architecture in Ukraine, and of course, it was the times when already was becoming digital and stuff. So I was learning 3D, like 3ds Max visualization, because all the architects are doing that. We're doing the blueprints, then we are building in 3D, and then render it. So that was my beginning of getting know 3D and stuff. And I remember in 3rd grade, someone asked me, "Hey, let's join some game dev company. We're gonna make games." I'm like, "Hell no, I'm gonna be an architect, man. What are you talking about?" And so yeah, I declined my first offer there, and I carried on and was working as an architect for a few years. And then due to some circumstances, I had to leave the job. And I was lucky and unlucky at the same time because the need and my will combined. And I had to learn 3D, and I wanted to learn 3D. So I had my fellow who was in journey already for like 10 years already. He was mentoring me. I was learning 3D and doing some stuff, posting some renders. We had no ArtStation back in the day, so I just quickly bashed some documents like CV with my artworks and my resume and so on, and pulled it on some job offer website, and I got my first offer. And I was starting as a freelancer, and I was lucky to not start as a junior. I already started as just specialist. And after just a few months of freelance, I got a job in outsource company already as a senior. So my way from junior to senior took like 4 months. And yeah, as I said, it was combination of luck and basically a need. When you have to make this stuff for your living and you have to survive, this is what was my path. And yeah, I was working in an outsource company for like 5 years, I guess. And that was forging me as hell, because I went through the all pipelines, all kind of games, mobile games, browser games, the indie games, AAA games, some massive titles. And this is a really cool school because you learn everything and you're evaluating and you pick up different pipelines. And I was working in installation as well. And in the end, you have a huge knowledge base of the tools you can use, what will speed up your work, what will better, what will work in general or not. And yeah, that was the short version of my path. Micho.
Yeah, so for me, it was, well, back in the days when I started working in the game industry when I was studying. I'm an engineer, and I left. While I was studying, I started just figuring out with the 3D. That back then that there wasn't any kind of a school in my hometown, and it wasn't anything like very open. We didn't have like an internet, and that was not that common. The YouTube wasn't back in the days. There was like huge books, and I was learning the 3D Max back then. And I started working. What could be really interesting. I was studying in the games, doing Nintendo DS games. So that was more like a pixel art. So back then, I learned how to use each one of the pixels, where to put shade, where to put exactly the dots that will give a little bit of a blink on the texture. This is something that nowadays you don't have to think about. This is great. And I was moving forward to little studios. Back then, I was a generalist, so we were creating from the whole levels to the character artists to like characters, animations, so rigging, etc. That kind of stuff, and basically putting up some gameplays and VFX. So I was starting like a generalist, slowly growing from this Nintendo DS, Wii. I was working on Duke Nukem, and on some point I wanted to move to Warsaw. I showed my portfolio to the guys over here in the CD PROJEKT, and I joined The Witcher 3. And that was like a game changer. I was like working in the like a AAA, but only like an outsourcer. But right now, when I moved into the Witcher, the whole thing started moving forward. So that was really, really great, and I learned a lot from being generally so visualization. I was doing cars back in the days too, so it was like a self-learner more than having a school. So looking at what you guys are right now presenting in this future games, this is like a huge Kickstarter for anyone that would like to join the industry and would like to learn a lot, because I didn't have a mentor back then, so I was learning on my own. And when I got into the industry, there were some people, but it wasn't that common to share the knowledge that much. So slowly, gradually, having more friends, more people, I started to grow and basically having a mentor. So being in the future game like as a student, that would be a great thing. Yeah, basically that's it. I'm here and basically growing. Being elite is a different set of skills that you need to have, but this is something for other part on other presentation that maybe you guys in the future you will give.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting points from both of you, and of course you're always welcome to join us anyways.
And actually, I made a note. I noted that for my marketing purposes. Thank you.
Yeah. Super cool. So the second question, what's some common software you use day to day or have used during your career? Are there any rules at companies you worked at, like what to use or not to use?
I was permanently muted. Michu, go.
Go. Okay, so for me right now, it's Miro definitely, but of course Unreal. Right now we switch in our studio. Back we were working in the Red Engine, so it depends on the tool, but this is a tool. What else? PureRef, of course, Google, sometimes Pinterest, just to look for the huge amount of references. And for modeling, Anton will give you a little bit more info, but definitely I was using the same softwares and I'm using the same softwares what Anton is using. So basically, Anton, go ahead.
Yes, for the modeling is, of course, the thing that serves the purpose. For example, with the texturing, you cannot beat Substance Painter with anything else. So this is the only texturing software that most of us use. And the same for the sculpt. If you want to sculpt something, of course, you have sculpt already in Blender or on some other surfaces. But if it's more advanced and more complicated sculpt and more thorough sculpt or some organics, that of course it's a ZBrush, right? If you have some specific pain, you don't go to any kind of doctor, right? You go to the specific doctor, and this is the same approach with the softwares, right? The same with animations. If you're doing some animations, it's Maya. It's most likely this way to go. But for the modeling of props, for me, the Blender covers like 98% of my needs, and I stick to the Blender. And of course, with recent era of more powerful hardware and such things, you can deliver more and more complexity into your assets. So you're going to the Houdini to procedural things, because manual labor is valuable, but you need to take into consideration the time scope of the project. So if you need to do a lot of complicated things, you need to seek a way of automating those processes. And Houdini, of course, unbeatable in terms of procedural tools. And yeah, Blender geometry nodes coming close, still not there yet, but it looks very promising. And yeah, the rest are PREF for the gathering references. It's must have. Everyone should use that, and as more references, the better. Pinterest, as Michu mentioned, yeah, references is as important part of the pipeline as the software itself.
I will add one more thing, because right now everybody's got a phone, and if you have a iPhone, you have the LiDAR, so going and scanning stuff. That is a great thing. I'm using as a tool, so whenever I'm going somewhere in forest or seeing some kind of a museum, I'm scanning the subject because it's giving me a scale, and it's really easy to export it, import it into the engine, and you have the scale, and that's really, really great. Many times I was using that as a reference for the artist, so you see how that works over here, how that bends. Look at the scale. This is something that nowadays is really, really common, and just I'm using it as a tool, like you were saying, to show the artist how the things should work. So this is you just use it.
Yeah, it's an amazing point as well, because me as well, I was using it a lot of times, but not also for the scanning, but just for the making pictures. You see some dope surface, some like rusty object that's getting dirty in some interesting way, and you're just taking photos of it so you can replicate that on your model, or some scratches or some other elements, or like some placing of some details. That the key is to not invent the wheel again. Everything is already exists. You just need to take it and do it.
Yeah, basically we are touching the third point over here.
Oh, that's a huge one.
Yeah, like
Yeah, go straight ahead.
Yeah. So basically having this kind of a reference when I'm going to the environment artist or the prop artist, and like he's doing an art piece, and I was like, show me the references, show me the stuff that you are seeing in your eyes. We need to be aligned when it comes to the stuff. Basically, and when you're working in the game industry, you have the art Bible that is showing how the project will look like. This is set up by the art director, of course, in line with the game director. What is the vision for the project? So this is the when I'm coming to the artist, he needs to show that everything is aligned. Your references, or if that reference is not making like to the point of the art Bible, he needs to describe it. Okay, this is why I'm using it. This kind of a spot, and why is in this piece. Yeah, so this is what is really, really great when it comes to this to use of the art Bible. Couple of more things, basically. Understanding the composition, understanding the light, understanding the how heavy things are, how they correspond to the together, understanding what is the rhythm if you are using pretty much the same, for example, the same mesh, and how it is composed in the whole picture. Many times you see the prop is like it's basically like a helicopter drop. So you have really nice scene, and then you have some kind of element that is pointing like, okay, why it is over here. And this is something that is very important when artists know how things work together nicely. There's a saying like, people when they are playing games, they are saying they are not commenting anything when everything works nicely together. When they are starting commenting it and only pointing out the bad things what they see on the screen. So if everything in the picture works nicely together, this is the goal. This is the thing that we are looking for. Not amount of clutter, but basically know that each one of the subject that is in the scene makes sense. Go ahead, Anton. Just jump in. I think that could be.
Yeah, it was amazing introduction to our part, because the environment consists of props, and props cannot consist without the environment, and this is natural collaboration as always. And what makes the good prop art is that, first of all, of course, this is the artistic knowledge and understanding of the basic art, I would say. Colors, composition, proportions, etc., because you will need to recreate most of the times the object either that has been given you by the concept artist or the already existing one. Or if we're gonna take an example, the cars, they should be like millimeter to the millimeter exactly as they've been manufactured. So you need to know your things, how to take the picture and turn it into 3D. And attention to the details, of course, and your time management. It's better to have the asset that being equally finished from the all sides, then like one piece is super polished and other thing is like fluff and unfinished. This is very important as well. And texturing, yeah, because the first impression you see in a game, the asset, of course, the lighting, rendering and stuff, it doesn't depend on you as an artist, right? It depends on lighting artists and rendering tech and the engine itself and so on and so on. The first impression from the assets you see is the textures and how well they are done, how do they respect PBR values. And then it comes to the details, like you see like the details that be modeled, right? This is topology, it's a silhouette, and it's high poly and amount of details you put in there. So this also makes a lot of sense. And yeah, then comes communication skills, of course, the soft skills, how well you're communicating with the team, with the environment team. Is it really the asset they need? Like how exactly it looks on the location? Does it serve the purpose? Do they need to change that? Does it fit to the art direction? You need to know that not only from the books, from the guidelines that you've been provided by also talking to the art director, to the team members. You need to be open and open to the feedback, because sometimes you might do a piece of art that is amazing from the all sides and should go to the art station like first pages, but it doesn't fit the style or it doesn't fit the function and you need to change it slightly, and you shouldn't take it as an offense. You should take it like as a way to improve, because we're all making a game, right? And we're giving a feedback to make it even better. So this is, yeah, the way you react to that is also very important.
Exactly. Think about like right now as the environment artists and the properties games, right? They are more like a cinematic part right now, cinematic piece. We are getting there. There are more and more details over there. And if you played Cyberpunk, if you played Witcher, if you play any kind of a game right now, you see how much work it is in the cinematic approach to the games. Yeah, and you as the environment and the properties, you are like a cinematographer. So all of the like set dressing, exactly, this is very important. You are telling the story. What is making the best environment artist? If I'm on the location, I'm going on the location, and the location itself, it's supporting the cinematic approach. It's telling the story. Who is the habitat in the scene? What you were showing this kind of a I can't remember, that was a writer over there. So it is telling like individual story itself. So this is a great thing. That kind of a little piece. Okay, somebody was killed there. Why there's blood here? What kind of a piece was used? This is something that what I'm looking for when I'm exploring the world with the people as a player, or having a review with the environment artist. Yeah.
And the same thing comes to the regular asset if we're going to break it down. So for example, if it's some mutual asset that people grab all the time and doing this all the time, you need to live with this asset and put, the mark of the usage where area has been used. Actually, if you have handle or hammer, it should be like, dark and get dirty where you take it all the time. It's just simplest example. If it's the shelf or something, imagine you have a location with the hidden door, which is like a bookshelf and stuff. You need to leave some marks on it on the ground, right? And you need to make the asset a bit dirtier where you grab the hands all the time. So you need to tell the story of the asset itself, because they cannot be brand new and they cannot be, like evenly drenched and old and dusty and stuff. You need to make it like real. You need to live with this.
Yeah. So this is what they are touching the fourth. What are the common mistakes?
Yeah, let's go into this.
Having scratches everywhere. This is a common mistake. Like going into the substance painters, it's like edge damage. Go ahead, and just everywhere. This is a really common mistake. Look what I did. No, it isn't. It isn't the correct way. When it comes to the environment art, juniors tend to place a lot of decorations everywhere. So basically, the scene itself is clutter. You don't have anywhere to rest the eyes, and it's a process. You need to learn it. You need to get your hands and do couple of locations. Then you will understand it. You need to work with the other teams. So basically, quest related stuff, cinematics, like I was saying, and the lighting artist, because you are placing the decorations where the light is, where the light isn't there, and there is no purpose when it comes to some kind of a search in the room. You shouldn't place many decorations over there. And you need to understand where the player will be going fast through the level, so basically traversing through the city itself, or going more intimate into the location itself, so having a room and explore the room and giving that kind of a sense of not like a danger, but basically like, okay, I need to find what is in the drawer, so making it more closer the camera sometimes, and understand how the camera works in the interiors. This is something that juniors will need to learn, and we need to ask the people that they are working with them. This is very important. You have experienced artists, you have your lead, you need to speak to them and just learn, get all of the knowledge. Okay, how are you working? Play the location and just figure out and learn by doing. Basically, this is very important for us. Anton?
Sometimes it might be quite opposite. If, for example, some junior artists, they're taking some big location like a hangar or warehouse, they have it only the packed areas where the camera looks, if especially it's visible if you're doing some render for our station for portfolio, right? You want to make some hangar, and you pack the details only where you pointing the camera into, and the rest is empty. And it's one of the approaches, but it's always better to think as a room as a whole, and the building as a whole, what's going on there, how you can zone it, how you can use that. And if it comes to the assets themselves, you mentioned the metal edge, like the procedural tools that Substance Painter provides you, slap it on everything. But again, as I was mentioning, you need to live with the asset, and you need to place exactly those details where they should be. And it's one of the common mistakes of the junior artists. They have not enough references. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel again. You just need to take the picture and repeat it. If it's some mind-blown sci-fi that doesn't exist in nature, you still have a lot of movies, a lot of concepts, and especially you can apply the same physics rules to everything, because this is a material, right? This is being made out of something, and you will have the dust even in space, because the human also produce some particles that converts into the dust, etc., etc. Yeah, you have less gravity, but still you have oxygen, which may corrode things, which might get them rusty or dirty, and so on and so on. Then you have your humidity, then can press it down to the surface, and how it reacts to the surface. That's why you need to understand the environment and live in that to get it right. And of course, I'm talking to the textures. When it comes to the modeling, is especially on the high polys, junior artists make a mistake of doing super sharp bevels, even sharper that they are in real life. And yeah, high poly might look super realistic and stuff, but once you will break it down to the low poly, you will have not enough pixels to show the smoothness of the edges, and you will have a lot of artifacts on the border of the UV shells, and a lot of artifacts as well, and pixelated ones on the edges. And that's why you need to always balance between the real life, but also understanding the needs of the project, because this is a game asset, and it will be different on the first person perspective, on the third person perspective, because you need to go sharper in the first person, you need to go a bit smoother on the third person, because your camera is further. That's why all your bevels and edges are tinier. You need to also consider that. And yeah, distribution of the details, I would say, because as I was saying, some part of the assets and junior artists are making might be super detailed, and the rest are like underdeveloped. So you need to keep it balanced and well developed from all sides, and the proportions, of course. From the first times, of course, you will be struggling to understand the proportions, especially if you will be doing some assets from photos, because you will need to understand the perspective, the lens, because sometimes if you have different lens, the asset may be way or too much distorted or not, and you need to understand how to read it, how to like make it, and so on and so on.
Yeah. A fun fact: when we were working on the Cyberpunk, there's the base game that was a lot of locations for being that need to be created and distributed the details. We need to balance, because some of the artists were working, okay, I will finish this piece because this street is really, really great, and they were focusing on this part, and we needed to, me as a lead, I needed to make it work, that everywhere will be the consistent the consistent part. This is very important for us to understand. As an artist, you understand that you have a larger, for example, a larger location to distribute the details, not only focusing on one piece. This is something that is common when it comes to the junior artists, that they bite too much that they could choose, or even like overestimate stuff. So this is something that is a learning curve, and when you will get into the industry, you will get much better with that. Yeah, I don't know if we should touch over here yet the topic of the portfolio, so that will be in the other number, because I can't remember.
I think it's gonna be next one, tips and suggestions.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go ahead.
Feel free to just move on. Super interesting, just listening.
Yeah. Micho, do you have any tips and suggestions out of your mind?
Out of my mind, when it comes to the junior artists and when you are learning, you tend to learn basically like everything. So a little bit of this, a little bit of a character, a little bit of a VFX, a little bit of the simulation, a little bit of cars. So everything is in your portfolio. But when you will be moving towards one particular studio, it would be great just to focus on the character of that the studio is representing, on the product that it is representing. If that would be Cyberpunk, you will have to do that kind of a piece that will be connected to the Cyberpunk. If the Witcher, that more medieval stuff. But be mind open when it comes to the style itself, when it comes to the environment art. But basically, what I'm saying is, like, if you are a character, go with the characters. If you would like to model the car, go with the cars. When you are in the environment art, focus on the environment art, the composition, how the things work together, how the scale works. When you are prop art, focusing on the prop to give the best out of it, because there's a large difference when it comes to the art that is like a background for the player, and the art that you are just focusing, like I have a pen over here and just like looking at it like a hero piece. So this is something that you need to be aware of. This is one of the crucial things. And I have a tip for you guys. I have a really great character artist that I know he's working with us in the CD project daily. Once he told me, like, okay, I have a problem with doing a hand inside of the ZBrush. What he did every day when he got back from work, he was working with me in the games. He was exercising how to sculpt the forearm and the arm itself. He was exercising for a couple of weeks, and then from the back of his mind, he could do that. That was really with the proportions, with everything. So only thing that you will have to do is just like learn each day, having a little bit of a time, just doing it half an hour or an hour. It is getting into your it's like a muscle memory basically on some point. When I'm looking at some kind of a piece from the environment artist, I know more or less or exactly what is wrong on the inside of the picture. You will learn that, but you need to take your time and just having that kind of a passion to get that kind of a, I wouldn't say like sit on your butt and just do it.
Yeah, practice makes perfect. And also don't be shy to ask for a feedback. Right now with the ArtStation, with the amount of Discord channels and a lot of communities and so on, and especially in the school, in the future games, you will have a lot of artists surrounding you which are better on this or another area. and some experienced artists, don't be shy. Like ask the opinions of the concept artists that you took for, and ask for a feedback. And the feedback, this is the only thing that will help you to get better. If you will not know how, like in which area you should improve on, it will be hard to improve, right? So you always need to be open to the feedback, ask for a feedback. Okay, how can I do better? How can I do better? And the knowledge and the practical things are just, the practice. You're practicing, they're coming, and as in the end, all the softwares are just the tools, and pipelines are in your head. So the tools, you can easily master them, and the rest is also, as I said, artistic knowledge. It's very valuable to go in some simple art classes to draw something with the pencil or some paint something. It's very cool. It gives you a lot of understanding, first of all, on stages of the production of the art piece, because there comes a sketch, as Joel was explaining in the beginning. There's some blackout, then some detail stages, then some texturing. You do pretty much the same in an art, but you always will practice the perspective, the artistic things, and colors and compositions. This will always come in handy in environment and in props creation for sure.
Oh yeah, go outside too. Just basically going to the forest, going
Touch
to
some
the
grass.
museum.
Yeah.
This is taking huge amount of pictures and observing like how environment looks in the morning, how environment looks at the late evening, the golden hours, how that look like. It is very important to not only sit by your PC but just explore the world itself. It is really a great thing, and you are moving yourself, and basically you are learning. This is very important, and you have this kind of a what make junior stand out, understanding where the prop or how the location will be used. This is for me very, very important, and this is how the junior can stand out. Communication. If I'm going and speaking to the junior, he's telling me, I created this. Why I created this like this? I was communicating with level designer, with prop artist, with game designer, so we know exactly that each one of the steps are already covered, and I don't have to ask additional questions regarding this. It doesn't have to be a finished piece. It can be a draft. It could be something that that we scrapped and redo that. But basically, he did the work. This is very important. He understands why he's doing that. This is how the junior can stand out in the company, definitely.
Yeah, and pretty much the same is applies for the prop artists. Everything should be justified. Everything should follow a logic and the need of the project. And if you're talking about some portfolio pieces, because you need to stand out to get hired or like get your career path started, then of course first comes rendering and how well lit your artwork on the rendering, and how well it's textured, and then comes how well it's modeled, and so on and so on. We already gave like a lot of tips and tricks for that, but yeah, you right now have enormous access to YouTube and about videos how to color grade things, and you have videos how movies are using the color grading post processes, how you can tone map your artwork, how you can lit like environment lighting, prop lighting, how the stages on the movies are being lit by some light sources, directional light and directional light. But also you have a lot of art books. For example, Uncharted or so, they had a huge chapter dedicated just for the lighting, and they were explaining how they were guiding the player by lighting and so on, because light is also a function, and everything that you see in both in real life and in games, it's thanks to light, because with light you cannot see shit. And it's also very important to understand how light is working.
Yeah, one thing that I can add is when you are presenting your stuff in the on the art section, we have many portfolios that are coming, and I went through many portfolios just looking at them. I see that inconsistency in the art that you guys are creating. This is something that is very, very important for me. That could be just one piece in the whole portfolio. Many times we were doing that. That is standing out. It would be cool to have a couple of them that they are really strong, then one that is like me, a couple of them that they are mediocre. So this is important. And when it comes to presenting the stuff, it is very important to have a really great icon to click it, like that is luring me. Okay, this is something interesting, and then the presentation itself, how you are presenting the subject itself. Do you understand where you put? For example, this is a location, and this is one piece that is part of the location, and the pacing when it comes to rolling the whole page from the on the art station. So basically, if that's a you are starting in the morning from location, you are starting in the morning, for example, and you are going dark and dark, and for example, to show some kind of a cave when you are doing a portfolio from some kind of a game, or you are presenting your own level. So I'm looking at the portfolio like you are basically selling the level. Imagine that you would like to go on the Unreal Market and sell the level. How you would like to present it? You would like to present it as best as possible. So you can think about that kind of stuff. That might help you when it comes to the presenting your art pieces.
And the same goes to the props most of the time, because doing the props and rendering them out of background, this is not exactly the great piece, because it always a selling point when you're making the props for the environment and you're showing them in the environment that they will be used in. For example, you're making a table, so don't render it in a black background, or like taking screenshots from Substance Painter. No, put it into some room, some environment, quickly make it. It can be not as good quality as the table itself, but that's why you're focusing on the table, because you made just table. But how you're selling it, it will also help is the proportions and sense of scale, and it will show that you're thinking about it in the way how it's going to be used in.
Yeah, some extremely good points there. Me, that is a little bit aware about time. A quick answer to what is the difference between working in AAA and smaller projects before we move on to the questions from the audience.
I guess we
Okay.
discussed it
Yeah.
briefly before. It is me who mentioned in smaller studios, you just need to be a generalist. You need to be a one-man army, and you need to be capable of everything. Not as good quality, but this is what you will have to choose, because most of the indie studios, or like AA projects or A projects, they're way tinier, have smaller budgets, and they cannot afford to have each specialist in each position. So you need to be more than just environment artist or prop artist.
Yeah, exactly. You sum it up really nicely.
Yes, thank you for clarification there. I'm so happy with your answers, and that you just ran through it. I'm learning so much. Now I'm gonna go change my third person bevels to be a little bit different. So yeah, Piotr, how do you want to do with the Q&A? What is the terms of engagement?
Yes, so first of all, thank you, Anton and Michał, for your answers, and you all for covering also a lot and warming up us with perfect introduction. I listened to it really interest, because it all sums up to me and makes it clear to me that all the efforts to focus on soft skills in future games are so very important, because basically you can look at everything you have been saying from this perspective, that basically you are entering this industry and you will become a part of some kind of team, some kind of bigger picture, right? So it's not an in industry for individualists, soloists, or at least you need to know how to work with others. So this is what we also focus a lot in future games. Okay, but getting back to Q&A, I like to ask our audience to raise their hands, and we will create the queue this way. And please unmute yourself and ask your questions. Because I don't think I can cover questions written in the chat. I think it may be too much. So let me just go quickly and unmute people who are asking questions. And I see, I hope it's in a proper ask to unmute. Yes, okay, Baghdad, here's your time. Ask your question.
Can I share my video? Just a second.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to do it. Anyways, no worries. Visuals are important.
Okay, sorry, I made put some blockage. Yeah, but please just ask your question.
Sure, sure. Hello, everyone from Brussels, the capital of the European Union, and thank you for this beautiful, full of inspirations, full of ideas presentation, and honestly, your school is just next level. A little bit about me. I cannot share all the details, of course, like you guys have signed too many contracts and not so many confidentiality contracts. I have worked with some of the biggest companies that there are on this planet. For instance, Apple Computer Company Incorporation. With that, I'm announcing my, for my question, I'm announcing my, yes, I will ask my question just give me a second. I'm announcing my potential conflict of interest in asking my question. My question is, without any reference to your experiences or to your projects, because I believe you could not make any such references, could you please explain to us how do you see the future of spatial computing? I'm avoiding the terms VR and AR. I'm referring to the latest term that Apple has coined, spatial computing. How do you see that, and how do you see its impacts on the entire game industry, but also on the way we interact with our unreal worlds, let's say? Thank you so much. This is a good question.
Thank you, Baghdad. Thanks.
Mijo, wanna start?
Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah. So it's always controversial question because I've been hearing that for like last 15 years that game is gonna be dead, game's gonna be dead, game dev gonna be dead. Yeah, okay, it's still alive. It's evolving, it's transforming. The hardware is getting more powerful, the tools getting more powerful. You get more tools. You have VR, you have AR, and the section of the mobile gaming is always growing because again you have more and more powerful hardware. So of course I'm not a prophet and I cannot see how exactly the future will be. I know exactly that the entertaining it was on the second or third place on demands of a humanity for last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5,000 of years. So the games will be on demand for sure in some one or another form. So our main goal is just follow the trends and be in touch and just follow the stream. In some cases, in some like bold cases, you need to be the first one who will make some breakthrough, but it's sometimes impossible because we all tied to the hardware and we are just following the hardware that exists right now.
If that's not answering your question.
I'm sorry, I'm in charge of unmuting participants, so feel free to answer in the chat if it answers your question, Baghdad, if I remember correctly. And we go to another person, Sanjay.
Yeah. Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Hello. Hi. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a VFX artist, especially based on a texture look dev. I'm currently working in a VFX industry for one MPC films. So here we work based on the shots of the movies. So the way they just divide the assets into Lord A, Lord B, and Lord C based on the level of details, how close it is to the camera. So how you guys do it exactly, especially in the open world games? Because once the open world games come out, the player can move anywhere they want. So do you really treat every asset as a super Lord A hero plus asset, or you have something else going on in the game industry where you exactly divide the assets based on the camera?
Yeah, of course, we have a level of details. It depends where exactly the player is, and we have the distance from the camera, so we can set up when the each particle will start to exist, and when it will be just unloaded from the where the player is. So this is depending on the where the asset will be used, and right now. Looking at the industry itself is growing because you can and you can get even closer to the camera, and you can have the distance even further away because you have more hardware and more power to get this stuff being visible and really well quality for the further distance. Yeah, so that's for me. Anton, do you have anything more?
In general, it's mostly we aim to do all the assets the same quality, because it's always upsetting when you have, because if you have an open world, there is higher chance that they will be mixed up in any unpredictable manner than you can even imagine. So if you will do two assets in a different quality and they suddenly will come in close together on the level, you will clearly see that. So that's why we are trying to do all the same quality. But sometimes you have an exception, for example, cinematic. And during the production of the game, someone decided to do a cinematic scene using this or this or this assets, and you have to revisit them and bump up a bit quality to them look better and close up. And you have some opposite cases where you have some background assets that are really, really far away, and you will not be able to get close to them. They are behind some unreachable mountains, or they're just forming the background of the level itself. So yeah, of course, you can have them lower quality, but in playable area, most of the assets should be within the same quality. That's why you will mitigate the cases of suddenly need of bumping up the quality for hero and other asset.
Thank you, Anton. And now it's Vinicius. Vinicius Lima, I ask you to unmute. Vinicius? Sorry, it seems like something is... Okay, let's go to Mariusz. Mariusz? You are unmuted, so you should be able to ask question. Okay, let's try with Małgorzata.
Hi guys, are you hearing me?
Yes, we hear you loud and well.
Okay, great. Maybe I will just make the camera if I can. Okay. I don't know if it's working, but okay. I will have a few questions for you guys. I'm currently working in a place where I make visualizations and design and plan the environment. And I have a few questions. I just write it down. First of all, are you making your own textures, materials, or are you just using the one from the library like Corona or Quixel Bridge from the Unreal?
I will jump in on this one. We have dedicated material artists. They are creating tileable textures in Designer. So there's like dedicated ones, really experienced guys that they are moving, not like something that you have in common, but moving it to the next level. This is and they need to work. The materials themselves need to be properly created with the PBR values that will work on the level itself. It depends on the lighting conditions and the rendering type. So it is like a more you understand how the texture itself will work in the environment. So it is not that easy to get the materials from some kind of a shop and just use them. We need to be consistent when it comes to all of the materials, that they are on the level itself. And Anton can talk about that a little bit more, even because it's very important how the properties are working. And we have like you need to be consistent when it comes to the scene itself, foliage, landscape, and the props themselves. So all of them, we need to have the proper values set up by us in the range and in the proper scale.
Yeah, that's a great topic of consistency. And there are basically two main reasons on why majority of the studios doesn't use anything that exists on the market, or even three reasons. The first reason is the legal reason, because you will have to pay some amount of money for the textures being used. And in most cases, it also depends on the studio. It might be too expensive. It might be more expensive than hiring some material artist who will do these textures for you. Second of all, they might not be exactly what you need. And depending on your project, you might need to tweak them here and there, but they might be limited in terms of quality and stuff, that they will be basically untweakable, and it's easier to start over. And the third reason, as Michu mentioned, this is pure art directional choice. It's depending on your pipeline, you might need to create some specific textures, and basically you cannot buy them online.
Okay, it's the whole answer. So now let's get back to Vinicius. I hope it will work this time. Vinicius had some problems. Vinicius? Okay, then let's go to Mikhailos Machilo, if I read it correctly.
Yeah, it was correctly. Hello, I have one question. What tips do you have for self-taught starting artists for their portfolio? I mean, what common mistakes you see in work of those who relatively recently started?
Yeah, I guess we've covered mostly of this already on this webinar, but most of the mistakes I will summarize is, first of all, using too much of generators and not breaking them down on props, and not using the assets and not showing this in environment, and not rendering it well, and the poor presentation. These are the most key features of areas that should be improved by beginners and self-taught people, and also lack of feedback, I guess, because usually when person is self-taught, it being educated by YouTube videos, by some articles, by some tutorials or whatsoever, posting the tutorial piece on ArtStation, this is kind of okay, but what would elevate your value as an artist, if you will, based on this tutorial, will make another prop you can do this in the same manner, but do completely another prop and show that how you learn the knowledge that been in this tutorial. And you have also, as I was saying, the ArtStation, you can go through the artworks, you can easily understand who is a cool artist, who is not a cool artist, and you just can go into direct messages to them, ask there for feedback. Okay, dude, I'm a beginner. Could you please give me a couple of words, like feedback for this and this and this piece? It's, in worst case, people will just not answer you. In the best case, you will get a really valuable feedback that might change your life in a bigger perspective. So don't be shy on that. Always ask for feedback, and always ask for ways how to improve your work. You have a lot of tutorials on ArtStation, on YouTube, and so on and so on. Some people can just point you be in a conversation, be in a Discord group, and this will always help you to evolve and to improve.
And not give up, basically. Sometimes it will be, you will be falling, you will hate your work, you will just basically, you say this is not the thing that I wanted to achieve. Learning and not give up, because many people are just like, you know, moving forward. This is not for me. Not giving up. This is a very important stuff. Next piece will be better. Next piece will be better. Next piece will be better. You will learn, definitely.
Exactly. It sounds prosaic, but every your next day, every your next artwork should be better than your previous one. And this will never end. Never ever. If you will be like lead, principal, super art director, it's an art. There will be never end to the perfection. But what makes a really good artist is the knowing the moment when he should stop, or she, or they, no matter, when the artist should stop. And sense of enough. This is also very important, but it comes with the experience.
Yeah, and that is totally a real position, and I'm gonna apply for it.
Yeah. You will get the imposter syndrome. Definitely, everybody's got it. Everyone. It's a normal thing. You can read about it. It's a common thing on each one of the levels that you have.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. We are a couple of minutes over. Are you okay to stay for 3 or 4 more questions?
I have maybe like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah,
I would really need to go after.
Okay, so let's just address William and ask about his question. William, stage is yours.
Hello, do you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yep.
Okay, so my question was, when you make props for your portfolio, it feels like you can spend forever on an asset, but in the industry, how long should you expect to spend on one asset?
It always depends. You can have an asset that you can do within 2 hours. You can have an asset that you will do within 3 months. It always depends on its complexity. And yeah, it's hard to predict. It always comes with the estimate, and estimates will be put by your leads and the ones who will give you the task. But there is no clear answer that, okay, you will be senior if you will be doing this in this amount of time. There is nothing like that. It's all about the quality, and of course the speed matters. And for example, when I was doing some artworks in my portfolio and stuff, I wasn't spending like a lot of times. I was spending less times on my portfolio assets than I was spending on my production assets, because I was exercising to make it faster within the same quality. So you need to aim to the quality, and then the pace and the speed, it will come to you. Just focus on the quality, do a good habits, do a good practices, like forge your hands, and then the speed will come to you. And it's completely understandable for some juniors or specialists that it might take them a bit longer to get to the quality they need. And in most studios, people and leads, they treat it absolutely normal, so the juniors take a bit more time.
And the truth is, if the artist will have week to do it, and then you will give him like 3 weeks, the same thing. He will eat the whole 3 weeks to do the piece, the same piece that he could do in 1 week. This is a common thing, yeah. So this is why you have the more experienced guys that could show you where to go, and always like we are adding a little bit of a buffer to the work. It depends on what kind of a level the artist is. Yeah.
Michał, Anton, I feel we should wrap up, and thank you for your time and for being so invested in this webinar and for all the preparations. Guys in the audience who didn't stand a chance to ask your questions, I'm sorry about this, but follow our social media. We share a lot of content, we create a lot of webinars, and you will have a chance in the nearest future to meet another experts from CDPR. So join us, come prepared, and you will get your answers. It will be, next webinar will be in AI and game production with our very own mentor, Nicole Lee from Sweden. But for today, I would like to thank you all. And you all, thank you for running this and being such a good wingman for the, I think, second time. And I hope more to come. And anybody who has any questions regarding the school, please, I'm giving you the magic email address, which answers all your questions.
Thank you guys as well for hosting us.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
And see you probably at school one day. As we are neighbors, we are in your premises, so or see you at lunch at CDPR canteen one day. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and see you soon. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook for more. Bye bye.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye. See ya.